Most Americans rarely buy diesel directly. They may pass the diesel pumps at a truck stop, notice the price for a moment, and keep driving. But diesel is already built into the cost of daily life. It is in the truck that brings food to the grocery store. It is in the equipment that works a farm field. It is in the freight bill behind a package, the machinery behind a construction project, and the delivery network that keeps shelves stocked. And in May 2026, that hidden cost became much harder to ignore. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the national average price for on-highway diesel reached $5.596 per gallon on May 18, 2026. That was more than $2 higher than a year earlier. On the West Coast, diesel averaged $6.524. In California, it reached $7.222 per gallon. For a household filling up a gasoline car, those numbers may feel like someone else's problem. For the economy, they are not. Diesel is one of the fuels behind the movement of American goods. When it rises, the first people hit are truckers, farmers, contractors, delivery companies, shippers, and businesses that depend on moving physical products. But the cost does not always stay with them. It can move into freight rates, fuel surcharges, farm expenses, construction bids, delivery fees, and operating costs. Over time, some of that pressure can reach households through the prices they pay. That is why diesel can behave like a hidden tax behind everyday goods. Not a literal tax, not a government charge, but a broad cost that moves quietly through the economy, often before it ever appears on a receipt. To understand why diesel matters, look at what it does. The Energy Information Administration says diesel engines in trucks, trains, boats, and barges help transport nearly all the products people consume. Diesel also powers much of the country's farm and construction equipment. That makes diesel different from gasoline as personal. Drivers see it when they fill their own cars. Diesel is systemic. It works behind the scenes. It moves food before it becomes a grocery bill. It moves materials before they become a repair quote. It moves packages before they become a delivery charge. It powers work that most consumers never see, but still pay for indirectly. By spring 2026, that pressure was showing up in official data. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that the Producer Price Index for final demand rose 1.4% in April 2026. That was the largest monthly increase since March 2022. Final demand energy rose 7.8%. Inside the same report, diesel fuel prices jumped 12.6% within processed goods for intermediate demand. The language is technical, but the meaning is simple. These are upstream costs. They are prices businesses face before the final consumer sees them. They are the kind of pressure that can build inside the system before households notice the full effect. The same BLS report showed truck transportation of freight prices rose 8.1% in April 2026. That is the link between diesel and daily life. A gallon of diesel does not directly become a higher grocery bill. It moves through trucks, warehouses, farms, distributors, shipping networks, and contracts. Some businesses absorb the cost, some delay it, some negotiate it, some pass it along. But when diesel rises sharply, the pressure has to go somewhere. In trucking, that pressure can be especially hard on smaller operators. Reuters reported that the trucking industry is heavily made up of small firms. As of June 2025, about 91.5% of active motor carriers operated 10 or fewer trucks, based on industry and government data. That matters because not every carrier has the same ability to handle a fuel shock. A large company may have long-term contracts, formal fuel surcharge systems, bargaining power, or financial reserves. A small carrier may have fewer options. The fuel bill comes immediately. Recovering that cost can take longer, and it may not happen fully. A national fuel price can quickly become a local business problem. A small trucking company still has to move freight. A farmer still has to run equipment. A contractor still has to power machines. A delivery network still has to keep routes moving. The physical economy cannot pause every time fuel becomes expensive. That is how the pressure spreads. Major shipping companies show the mechanism clearly. UPS says its U.S. ground, Domestic fuel surcharge is based on the national U.S. average on-highway diesel price and adjusted weekly. FedEx says fuel surcharges for FedEx Ground, home delivery, international ground, less than truckload freight, and pickup services are also based on weekly U.S. on-highway diesel prices. For the week of May 25th through May 31st, 2026, FedEx listed a 27% fuel surcharge for ground, home delivery, and international ground services. For FedEx Freight, the listed surcharge for May 20th through May 26th was 51.70%. Those figures do not mean every customer pays the same amount. Shipping contracts differ. Large companies may negotiate better terms than smaller businesses. Some costs may be bundled into broader pricing. But the mechanism is clear. Diesel prices do not stop at the pump. They enter invoices, they affect freight bills, they become part of the cost of moving goods across the country. And once that cost is inside the system, consumers may not be able to see where it began. A household may notice a higher delivery fee. A small business may see a larger shipping invoice. A retailer may offer fewer discounts. A contractor may raise a quote. A grocery item may become more expensive for reasons that are not obvious from the shelf tag. The receipt does not say diesel, but diesel may still be part of the story. That is the central tension. Inflation is usually discussed through the prices people see directly: groceries, rent, gasoline, insurance, medical care, utility bills. Some price pressure starts earlier. It begins in the cost of producing goods, moving goods, storing goods, and delivering goods. Diesel sits inside that hidden layer. Diesel does not explain all inflation. Prices are shaped by wages, rents, interest rates, supply chains, weather, global markets, business margins, and consumer demand. But diesel is one of the clearest examples of how a cost can move through the economy without most people noticing the source. The supply side is part of the story too. For the week ending May 5th, 2026, the Energy Information Administration reported that U.S. refineries operated at 91.6% of operable capacity. Distillate fuel production averaged 5.0 million barrels per day. Distillate inventories rose slightly that week, but they were still about 9% below the 5-year average. That helps explain why diesel can remain under pressure even when the system is producing fuel. Diesel is tied to refinery operations, distillate inventories, global fuel markets, regional supply conditions, and demand from industries that cannot easily switch fuels. A trucking fleet cannot instantly stop using diesel. A farm cannot replace its equipment in one season. A construction company cannot rebuild its machinery base because fuel prices move higher. The economy can adjust, but not quickly. That is one reason diesel is hard to fix. When gasoline gets expensive, households may have some choices. They can combine errands, postpone a road trip, drive less, or eventually buy a more efficient vehicle. Those choices can be painful, and not everyone has the same flexibility, but some choices exist. Freight is different. Food still has to reach stores. Parts still have to reach factories. Materials still have to reach job sites. Packages still have to reach customers. Much of that movement still depends on diesel-powered transportation and equipment. The working economy has less ability than an individual driver. Regional differences make the pressure sharper. The national diesel price in May 2026 was already high. But the West Coast average was higher, and California was above $7 a gallon. That matters because a business operating in California faces a different fuel environment than one operating in a lower-cost region. Local delivery, ports, agriculture, construction, and freight routes can all feel that pressure differently, so there is not one single diesel story. There is a national story, a regional story, and an industry story happening at the same time. Farming shows the connection clearly. According to USDA data, U.S. farm production expenditures totaled $477.6 billion in 2024. Farm fuel expense was $15.4 billion. Diesel accounted for $9.9 billion of that fuel expense, or 64.3%. Food prices are complicated. They are shaped by labor, weather, fertilizer, processing, packaging, transportation, retail margins, and global supply. Diesel is not the whole explanation. but it is part of the cost structure behind the food system. Before food appears on a shelf, fuel has already been used to plant, harvest, move, process, package, and distribute it. That is why diesel can be part of the grocery story, even when nobody mentions diesel at the grocery store. Construction works in a similar way. Diesel powers heavy equipment. It moves materials. It supports the delivery of lumber, concrete, steel, machinery, and supplies. When diesel rises, contractors may face higher operating costs. Some projects absorb the increase. Some bids become more expensive. Some customers delay repairs or improvements. Construction also faces financing costs, labor costs, insurance costs, and material costs. Diesel is only one piece of the picture, but it adds another layer of pressure. For the middle class, that is what makes the issue matter. Diesel alone does not make life unaffordable, but it can add pressure to budgets already strained by housing, insurance, food, debt, utilities, and transportation. When several costs rise at once, hidden costs matter more. A small increase in one place may not seem dramatic, but when cost increases are spread across groceries, deliveries, repairs, services, and everyday goods, households feel the total effect. They may not know which part came from diesel. They only know their budget is harder to balance. For workers, the impact is uneven. Truckers face the fuel bill directly. Farmers and contractors face it through equipment and operations. Warehouse and logistics workers may feel changes in shipping demand. Small business owners may see costs rise before customers are willing to pay more. For small firms, timing can be brutal. Fuel prices can move quickly. Contracts may not. Customers may push back. Competitors may cut margins. Cash flow can tighten before pricing catches up. That is how an energy price becomes a business survival problem. For retirees, the pressure is quieter but still real. Many retirees do not buy much fuel directly, and most do not buy diesel at all. But they still buy delivered goods, groceries, home repairs, medical supplies, and services that depend on transportation and equipment. If those costs rise, fixed or semi-fixed incomes do not stretch as far. For investors, diesel is a signal worth watching. It can affect transportation margins, retail margins, agriculture costs, construction costs, and producer inflation. It may show up in company results before it appears clearly in consumer prices. It can also complicate the broader inflation picture. If diesel prices ease, some pressure on freight and operating costs could fade. Fuel surcharges can adjust lower. Businesses with thin margins may get some relief, but relief may not reach consumers immediately. Contracts, inventories, pricing decisions, and business margins all create delays. If diesel stays high, businesses may keep passing costs through, cutting margins, raising delivery fees, delaying investments, or increasing quotes. Smaller carriers and small businesses would likely remain more exposed. If distillate inventories stay below normal, the market may remain sensitive to refinery disruptions, regional tightness, and swings in demand. These are not extreme predictions. They are the normal pathways through which fuel costs move through the economy. The key is not to overstate the story. Diesel does not explain every higher price. It does not control the economy by itself. It is not a simple story with one villain or one easy fix. It is a cost channel, and a powerful one. It shows how connected the American economy is beneath the surface. A refinery issue can affect a trucker. A trucker's fuel bill can affect a shipper. A shipper's surcharge can affect a retailer. A retailer's costs can affect a household. By the time the consumer sees the final price, the original pressure may be invisible. That is why diesel is such a useful way to understand inflation. It reminds us that the price of a product is not just the product, it is the movement behind it. The machines behind it, the labor behind it, the fuel behind it. In May 2026, the data pointed in the same direction. Diesel was expensive, freight costs were rising. Producer energy prices were under pressure. Distillate inventories were still below their 5-year average. Shipping surcharges were tied directly to diesel prices. And the industries that keep America supplied were carrying another burden. Most Americans will never track distillate inventories. They will not read refinery utilization reports. They will not calculate fuel surcharges before buying groceries or ordering a package, but they may still feel the result in the price of food, in the cost of delivery, in the quote for a repair, in the small increases that make a monthly budget harder to manage. Diesel is not usually the price people notice. It is the price behind the price. And when it rises, the economy does not always announce it. Sometimes everything simply becomes more expensive to move.